Welcome to the Lay Life Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Ferraro. Join us as we journey together to see the church come alive through real conversations with real people. Enjoy the episode. All right, Dr. Silva Goncalves, thank you so much again just for your time. Our introduction started a couple weeks ago with a cold call from the old Steubenville, Ohio. Saw your little advert on the back of a bulletin when I was up in Ann Arbor visiting a friend who had just gotten married. But yeah, maybe just for those watching that have never heard of you, never met you, are not familiar with your life's work, what do you feel that they should fundamentally understand about you and your story to know who you are and where you come from and why you do what you do?
I'm a singer, but I don't feel like singer. I feel like I know this because I have so much to learn.
Yes.
I was born in Brazil. My grandparents had 16 children, and there are 3 priests in the family. And they wanted me to be a priest, but it didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
I came here to the U.S., to Albion, Michigan, where I finished high school. Then I met a soccer coach who recruited me to go to Jackson Community College and then Western Michigan University.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up staying here. I got married, 2 children. My wife and I have been married 43 years.
Wow.
2 great children, and they went to school at St. Thomas, by the way. I have worked in many places. I work for the mental health system, Michigan. I work with the corrections facilities. I retired as a deputy warden. I spent some time at University of Michigan as an interim person working on with student conduct.
Yeah.
And then I got a call for Ave Maria, and that changed my life. It was the best call ever happened. And I met Father Dave Testa, who was from Steubenville. He came to open the pre-theology program at Ave Maria. And I met Dan Dentino, who was a dynamic leader and inspirational person. And I've been working for a long, long time. I retired twice, but now I'm working in my own practice called Ann Arbor Catholic Counseling Center, and I love what I do.
Yes.
Every day I meet somebody who teaches me something, and when I see good change, that's my reward, serving.
What was it like in your transition from Brazil into the U.S. and then what was kind of that journey for you, kind of discovering your interest in psychology and human flourishing and a lot of what you're doing now and what led to that path with working with Ave and helping develop the program there?
Well, I always liked law. Brazil, I was a pre-law at a very young age, but then I came here, and I didn't see myself developing verbal skills sufficient to go into a courtroom. But I grew up with some challenge. I had some personal challenge growing up in a third world country. And I came here, I took a test and pointed at helping people. And psychology always fascinated me. One thing led to another. From Jackson, I had a great professor at Jackson Community College. Western, I met some superstars in applied behavior analysis, behaviorism, and Jack Michael, Dick Malott, very, very famous people, at least in our niche of applied behavior analysis. B.F. Skinner visited twice a year. He gave symposium. He was my mentor's mentor. And I work with handicapped children, but that was my first job in Kalamazoo. Actually, that's not true. I put myself through undergrad school as an assistant manager at Burger King, home of the Whopper.
Yes.
And those Whoppers fed me
amazing.
through undergrad school. Then I went to work with handicapped children, and that was the most rewarding job ever in terms of human fulfillment, spirituality. I saw children they were labeled back then, the name was retarded. Well, if they're retarded, it's because they didn't have the right stimulus for growth. So I believed we could change them. That was a fascinating experience. I still have a movie I made working with them.
Wow.
I love that. So I work at various universities, institutions, and I didn't like retirement because chapter 16 in my second edition of Living 100% Now is about that. If you learn something, you have to serve as long as you're capable.
Yes.
Retirement's not healthy, really, unless you have a purpose, a very committed mission.
Why do you think I see that so much just growing up as a young guy, starting my career, starting out in business. I see that such as a mentality, even in amongst my peers of like, I want to make a bunch of money so I can retire when I'm 35, so I can do whatever I want. In your own experience, like you've been there, you've been through retirement twice. Why do you think most people on the other side that are still waiting to get there want to get there so badly and so quickly? And what actually led you to not want to stay in it, but felt like there was more to give, there was more purpose for your life?
Well, it's a lack of insight. Life is a miracle. For us to be here, for us to be talking, I couldn't even imagine billions of people in the world, for a man and a woman to meet, have children, and one of them be us.
Yeah.
It's a miracle in probability and in faith. So we're here to live, to perform, and to serve. Now, Mr. Ferrara, I can give you an example. The state of Michigan gave early retirement to managers, and about 55, 60 of my colleagues and I retired. The only three of us alive, and the three of us who are alive are people who have faith and
Hmm.
who continue serving in some capacity. I'm not the only one. I have a friend. She works in two jobs, and she doesn't need to, but she has people with low income to file taxes very cheaply.
Hmm.
And she works on security because we work together in a maximum security
Yeah.
prison. And she's vibrant, she's full of life, and she's a role model for me. So now the early retirement got me be a generational thing.
Hmm.
I work very hard. My children have solid jobs, and they do a very good job serving others.
Hmm.
They do not want to come and help me in private practice because after work, they want to go home, and I support that 100%.
Yeah.
I've overworked out of necessity and out of fear.
Hmm.
Brazil, I grew up with very little resources.
Yes.
So I came here and performance becomes an addiction. And
Mm.
I go home tonight, I do some cleaning, I do laundry,
Yeah.
then I watch some football. I made the shift from soccer, that's a sport in Brazil, to American football.
Yeah.
And I relax, I do my fun things. I help with the Knights of Columbus.
Uh-huh.
This past weekend, we raised money for St. Louis Center in Chelsea,
Wonderful.
selling Tootsie Rolls. And it's a good life. You see
Yeah,
people smiling, and it's it's good to serve. It's
it is.
in your life, in your spirit.
Yeah, I was so struck. Yeah, when I was reading your book this morning, kind of paging through, one of the overarching themes that really caught me is how clear and articulate you were about a lot of our action starts with our mindsets. That it's our outlook on life, coming with enthusiasm, positivity, expecting success, expecting good things to come, reinforcing those positive behaviors, removing those negative behaviors that actually begin to build a fulfilling life. And I know kind of throughout the book, you also talk about four main types of health: physical, social, behavioral, and spiritual. Maybe to someone that's never heard of these things, never heard of these concepts, or has never approached life in this way of understanding, these four types of health, and that they're all important, that they're all necessary to a flourishing life, and really understanding how important it is to get our mind right, that we're thinking right, and then we'll begin to act rightly from that. What are maybe some of those pointers, or some of the directives you would give to those people that feel a little lost, feel a little struggle, that their life is in kind of disarray, disorder, but they're just not really sure what to do, or maybe even necessarily what's gone wrong?
Yeah. Uh, a lot of people are depressed, disoriented,
Hmm.
lost because they have not seen the light.
Mm.
If we look at what we have and how much we use it productively, we're all can be underperformers. We don't use the brain capacity to the fullest. So, as you said earlier, negative actions, behaviors come from the way we think.
Mm.
And the way we think is developmental. The home environment is the first source of influence. We like to look at parents as the first role models. And parents who are nurturing, positive, spiritual, structured, honest, they are setting a good role model for the children. That first phase is critical. Then children transition to schools. That's a big choice. The house we purchase, the community we live in, should be close to a good church
Mhm.
community, good schools. Public schools have deteriorated because of lack of accountability. Schools like St. Thomas, that's a very nurturing school. Uh, the values and faith, the values of living and faith are things that are touched and taught every day.
Hmm.
Now, when I went to Ave Maria and I did my first seminar for students and staff would attend as well, I must confess, I had three three foundations for health: physical, mental, behavioral, and social. Father Dave, who had lost his voice, he lost a vocal cord, so he whispered to me and said, "Wow, you have a tricycle. Why don't you put an extra wheel in it and make it a four-wheel drive?" And he told me I needed to plug a spiritual wheel in that. And that was very insightful to me. And I think I was older than him or close to, but it's never too late to learn.
Yes.
We have the physical health. If you want to live and perform and do our best, we have to stay physically fit, not abuse our body. A social health. We spend maybe most of our time in a social environment, working for people, with people, schools, serving, going to church, dealing with the family. Then the mental health is our little covert world, what we think about. And that's a reflection on the environment we grew up and we live with. And then the ultimate domain, eternal life, it comes from our spiritual health.
Yes.
So we need to balance those four wheels of existence to achieve the most out of the life that was given to us. That's where the balancing act comes in.
Mhm. And what would you say? I mean, amongst those four, I mean, I kind of want to go through each of them, but on the physical side, I'm a young guy right now. I'm not married. I'm not dating, so I have probably more time. I'm working a full time job, running my own business, but um, a lot of people I've heard, a lot of people that I've received mentorship from, or I'm just in a relationship with, and it's like, Michael, you'll understand, once you get older, once you get married, once you have, two, three, four, five kids, like there's just not time for that. You just can't make time for everything. Why do you think maybe that's been like a common belief, or even more so than a belief, like a lived reality for so many people, that I actually don't have enough time to take care of both my physical and my social and my behavioral and my spiritual. Like it's always I have to cut corners, or I have to take this one and leave that one. Why do you think we find ourselves like in that place a lot of the times?
Well, because people like to give advice, people like to mentor, and also people like to teach what they did
Hmm.
and what they saw. I know Catholic school couples who met in high school and they're married with four or five kids and they're very happy. And I know people who married very young and it didn't last,
Yeah.
even in the church. Well, if you go back 100 years ago, people didn't live that long. They lived to be 35. We didn't have control of a lot of scientific information that was out there, but we had discovered them or applied them. Today, people live to be 70, 80. I just lost a friend this summer. He was 100 years and 8 months. World War II veteran. I love that man.
Well,
I have to share this with you, Marco. He always told me his greatest pride of serving the country is that he served, but he never killed anybody. And he also loved chocolate. And I love talking to that man. He was deep inspiring. Well, in a general sense, not everybody is ready to get married at 22, 24. I know I have some very close Catholic friends, young men and women who are single at the age of 34, 35. They just have not met the perfect fit. Now,
yeah.
there's somebody for everybody.
Yeah.
It's uh it's better to meet people early on, but life creates some challenge for people and they don't find the right person.
Hmm.
So rather than being precocious and marrying the first person, it's good to know the person, know the values. As a matter of fact, I'm encouraging people, coach some people, develop a behavioral contract. What are we going to do? How large a family are we
Yeah.
going to have? How much can we afford?
Hmm.
I have a friend who had 17, 18 children, actually. He's 18 and three in heaven. So that's a lot of children.
That is a lot.
And he's older than me. He's still serving, still working. It's all relative to the person, the circumstances,
Hmm.
tradition. The thing is, it's not when you get married. It is the person you decide to marry is a person who's going to be Your soulmate is going to be your best friend for life. That friendship is fundamental because love goes through different phases, like
Mm.
anything else. And we have to be each other's best friend if we're going to marry somebody.
Yeah, Dr. Silva, I mean, 43 years of marriage on your belt, 2 kids, a really beautiful and successful life. What were some of those things that you and your wife went through, while dating and engagement, those first few years of marriage that you feel like really set you up? First, to know that, like, this is the person I wanna marry, this is the person I wanna build a life with. And then second, once you guys were married, to actually have a successful marriage, create a successful, and thriving home environment.
I have heard of her through one of my fraternity brothers. He had a sister, younger, and he was a big German guy, 6'4", 230 pounds. He played soccer with me. He was a destroyer in the field. So when you told me about his sister, I picture her like one bigger than me, with red hair, and I felt a little intimidated. But then I met her, and she was not half as big as him. She was kind, and we dated for 1 week, and we decided that's it. We told people some 30 days later. We got married 6 months later. She had to go. She was not Catholic, so she had to go to preparation. She did a lot of work. Great priest help us, and we got married. And we had some similar foundational cultural things. She was born in Detroit, but she was raised in Mexico City. Her father
Okay.
opened a Ford Motor Company factory there. She raised with Mexican music, food. So she thought Brazil was the same, but Mexico and Brazil are not the same. But it's close enough.
Close enough.
We're very good friends. We had fun together, and we focus on our children. That became the priority. We have been blessed. Children first.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that I'm sure a lot of people that'll be listening to this are gonna hear, "Wow, 1 week, married a month later," you know, coming into
But
the faith.
I knew her for years in my mind.
Okay.
It was just shocking that she was not anything what I imagined. So, oops. It's like when we face what we fear, the end of fear is near. Did Shakespeare say that? No, it was Kung Fu, the series. Kane said that in one of Kung Fu series. I was ready. I was ready, and we really got along great. We talk
Yeah,
for hours. It's time. Does time really exist? Some people spend 3, 4 years together, and they never reach that level of friendship because they have
yeah.
so many differences. Time is relevant in our standards, but it's not the ultimate variable.
What do you think leads to that level of connection? I think you made a really good point, right? You have a week with your now wife, and you guys are able to determine this is the person I wanna marry. And then you're right, there's people that are together for 2, 3, 4 years, and they never really experience a depth of a relationship with one another. Why do you think even amidst such a time difference, there can be such a radical difference in the level of connection and intimacy that's built between people?
Well, I think we both had something was missing in our lives in terms of spiritual fulfillment and everything else. I didn't propose after a week. We talked about it and how much in
Okay.
common we have. We but a month later we talked to her family about our thoughts. I didn't propose officially. I had to do a little saving for a ring. So it was like 2 months later I made it official. And I had a talk with her father. He said, "You guys don't know each other. Why don't you wait until spring?" I said, "Sure, if that's what you want. But if we get married on December 4th, just before Christmas, it'll be a very easy date to remember, and we can spend the holidays together. It'll be ideal." And he agreed with me. I was a little older than her, and her father trusted me. And I don't know. Normally, if it was my daughter, I would say wait. But it worked because we're willing to work and make it work.
Do you think that that's one of the most important factors in successful relationships and in businesses and in your physical, social health, whatever it might be, just the firm commitment to like, we're going to make it work? Do you think that's the most important factor? Or do you think there are other things that kind of need to be qualified beforehand so that that can actually be lived out?
A commitment, we're going to make it work. I don't think that's enough. We need to we need to know what our values are and what to expect
Hmm.
in a relationship. And that should be very clear. family, faith, how to raise the children. And also, as a matter of fact, after we had our children, she said, well, you're teaching a lot about balancing life. Why don't we start working with the kids? My kids are 8 and 4. I said, okay, I'll bring the book home and the exercise. And the four of us work together and living 100% now. We all have goals, weekly responsibilities. I even wrote a little song. It's a rap song, but it's a Christian rap song
Love it.
with no bad words in it. We taught that to the children, and I still sing that song for the kids I meet here and I work with.
That's wonderful.
They have some 9 rules of discipline and
Hmm.
focus that we expected from our children, but we had to do the same. So it's called the success record sheet, and that goes with collect performance scores in each area: physical, mental, spiritual, social health. And if we got the points, we get the rewards. As a matter of fact, the children excelled us for 12, 14 years. The children always decided where to go on vacation because they have more points than we did. It didn't work as easily with my wife as it did with the kids. My wife never had a very structured, rigid
Yes.
upbringing. Neither did I, but I was teaching that, and I found out the results are better when you have a plan, a contract. So let's do it at home.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And I actually that's where I wanted to us to go in this conversation at this point is I know you were mentioning, in finding your wife, you guys can move forward in a more committed way much more quickly because you knew yourself, you knew your values, you saw the alignment and were able to move forward. Right. But then that begs the question, right? Where do those values get formed? Where do we discover who we are, what we want, how we think, how we view the world? Man, I just remember when I was reading through your book this morning. Really, you just focus on that in the first 2, 3 chapters are really all about that of the maximum performance management and the influence of positive and negative role models and the culture of the home and how that plays into our development. Yeah, what is it like? What is it like to create a healthy at home culture? What are some of those necessary ingredients in the formula of really creating a thriving space to raise children, to build a family culture, and then from that place actually develop people that are going to go forth and live out those values and have those ingrained in them?
It's a complex question. I'll see if I can narrow it. Parents have to show integrity.
Hmm.
You can correct me if I'm not answering the right question. Parents can't expect children to be something if they don't model the proper behavior. Honesty, responsibility, respect for other people, and goes on and on and on. Children learn not from what they hear, but from what they see. There's more validity on overt behavior than vague reminders in verbalization. Like the development of negative verbal addiction, negative thinking, pessimism, primarily starts at home when the parents engage in gossip, criticizing others, complaining about the work, complaining about things. Well, the children are going to learn to complain and criticize. And that's
Hmm.
planting the seeds for toxicity. And that's going to hurt. It's better to talk about the positive things in life. Hey, we're home. It's 6 o'clock. It's nice. It's warm. We're comfortable. Being warm is very important in Michigan, most of the time, most of the year. But we need to talk positively. And then we teach to think positively. And life becomes what we think about.
Yes.
Um, As a matter of fact, a lot of parents talk about the past, complain about the past, and the children learn that behavior. A lot of parents worry about the future, inflation, war, and all horrible things, and they talk about that. Overkill watching the news.
Hmm.
It's mostly negative. Well, instead, it's better to live in the present, living 100% now. Go for walks. Don't eat in a hurry. Only in the military, people put their head down and eat in 15 minutes. At home, savor.
Mm.
Small steps. Eat in small bites. Chew slowly. Don't talk with food in your mouth. All of those things help to create social behavior, but also physically healthy. Don't drink excessively, water even, during the meal. A little before or a little after, that's fine. But when you're eating, try not to over drink. And there's a lot of details. My daughter is a pediatrician, and so she helps me with some of those notions of physical health and review some of the things I research. But the bottom line is the parents need to set the tempo, make home pleasant, positive, and don't pressure, or you have to get all A's in school. The best schools are not looking for straight A's. They're looking for a well-rounded person.
Mm,
That's the case at University of Michigan Medical School.
yeah.
They make sure people do volunteer work and serve so they can develop some bedside side manners. A good physician is the one who is charitable and
Mhm.
care. I guess the bottom line is parents have to be role models and teachers need to be role models.
What happens, right? There's we really are a product in a lot of ways of our circumstances, of our culture. I've heard it said that you are the sum total of the five closest people to you. And I think there's such truth with that. And I've been realizing that in my own life as I'm just graduating college 5 months ago in my first business, discovering community, discovering a mission community. I'm living with three men here. We're doing a lot of the stuff in the neighborhood in the local town. And I continue to ask myself these questions of who am I surrounding myself with? Who do I want to become? Yeah, just praise be to God. I just recently met this man, Brandon Crawford, who owns a big construction company here, has done incredible work for the local community, but had a really harsh upbringing, was in the hood, was in the streets, saw dysfunction all throughout his life in his own home, had his own dark past, but was able to actually come out of that and overcome it. Now he has a beautiful wife with 9 children. Again, is doing incredible things for the community. A very successful businessman. Just getting to know him and talk to him and kind of start to receive mentorship from him because he's achieved a lot of the things I'm starting to desire and see as possible. And yeah, it's just like he got dropped into my life a few weeks ago. And but one of the things I've been recognizing and talking to him about is like, yes, we do begin to receive and get ingrained within us what we grow up in, but it doesn't ultimately determine us, right? We have free will, we have agency, we have the ability to be recreated. So it's like, how do we actually go about that? Right? Say we find ourselves with bad habits, an unhealthy mental space, unhealthy physique, diet, nutrition, sleep, lacking spiritually. What do we actually do in terms of taking those steps to get to fulfillment, to get to purpose, to get to health in all those areas of life? If we maybe our culture growing up, our models weren't positive.
Mr. Ferraro, you clearly a smart person. You describe a person who came from difficulties and he built a life for himself.
Hmm.
So he is a good role model. If he can do it, we say, hey, we can do it as well.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people are hungry. They
Hmm.
don't want to be hungry again. And they know work serving is the way to avoid being hungry. They don't want their families to go through what they did. So they
Yeah.
try to do better and provide. Now, if I were to work with somebody, and I have people come and see me and say, I need to do better at work. Or I got a raise, a big raise, but I'm not happy. I have to travel a lot. I don't see my kids play sports. So we have to re-engineer life. More money
Yeah.
is not always the answer.
Yes.
More money may not create a balanced life. So the best time to teach is to start talking to children about the four pillars. But I say somebody grow up and they still don't know, they still have not balanced their life. Well, then we can use, I think it's chapter 11. It keeps shifting a little bit. It's
Hmm.
about energy management.
Yes.
We just have so much energy and we have to put our energy in the areas where needs some improvement. So we manage time and energy, and it's never too late to readjust and refine. But I had a discussion with a priest here recently. He read the book, gave me some good feedback, and he said he particularly liked the point where talked about a smart person learn from his or her mistakes.
Yes.
A brilliant person learn from the success of others. I was never brilliant. I made a lot of mistakes and I had to work twice as hard to make things happen. Now, it's sad that the more mistakes we make, some people say, "Wow, if you make a mistake, you fall, get up and try it again, keep trying it again." Well,
Hmm.
if you try, but you use the same approach, the same ideas, the
Yep.
probability of failure will be the same.
Hmm.
So it's better, and I have done that a few times. I go to people who succeeded and I said, how did you do it? What should I look for? What should I do right? Pursue a path of success such as yours. Well, You approach somebody and ask them with sincerity, everybody's happy to share their success. That's a reward for them. But you recognize that I did something right. Very few people come and tell me I'm a role model. What's a shame? Very few children go to the parents and say, I'm proud of you. You do such a great job.
Yeah.
Now, one thing happened to me that was probably one of the most powerful thing I ever heard. Came from my son. He was 8 years old. And he came to me and said, Daddy, thanks for being my friend. Well, that came from him spontaneously. But to me, that was a great reward. There, I never forget it. So,
What about it touched you so much? What did that specifically mean to you?
well, it meant a lot because I grew up, I was never very close to my father. He was not close to me. He was too busy struggling, lots of children. And I don't think he ever came to me and told me he loved me. Now, my son today is 37 years old. He tells me he loves me 4 or 5 times a day, and my daughter and my wife. And I say the same to them. It's good to tell people how you feel about them. Reward the small things they do. And it's very fulfilling when you focus on a positive recognition of people's qualities, contribution. And basically, I live for the Father and for my family. These days, I don't think a lot about myself, only to stay as healthy as I can and keep my responsibilities. But I focus mostly on other people, which is very nice. It's very nice because if I focus on myself, you might consider me to be narcissistic or scrupulous to an
Mhm.
extreme. But it's good to think of the other people that you're serving and you're connected.
When did that change in mindset begin for you to start to be other focused rather than like, okay, what do I need to do or what do I need to accomplish? But actually looking outwards. How did that develop for you and what's the sort of impact it's really made on you?
I think the first experience was 19 work at the Kalamazoo Center for Retarded Children. And those children were so deprived. But I noticed that everything I did for them with eye contact, with intensity, trying to help them. And if they said they pronounced one word they couldn't pronounce before, if they took a step getting free from a wheelchair, I would clap and I would cheer them because I was excited to see progress.
Yes.
Progress rewarded me. I noticed that the more you give to other people, the more your happiness based on how you help other people
Mm,
giving, the deeper it becomes. I think there's much more reward in giving than in taking. And it began with the children and then happened in the prison. I treat the prisoners with respect. I made sure we had special occasion. We brought religious groups in and different faiths, but we're not there to punish them. Punishment is that they lost freedom. We're there to show them the positive side of life. And some of them benefited from that. Some of them were too far gone. They had served life, and but they still had some steps in the right direction. It's never too late.
yeah. And that's a theme I've been picking up both in our conversation and what I read is the importance of the consistency of affirmation and blessing and gratitude. Why is that so important? Why do we need that as people to be constantly affirmed and encouraged? Why does that upbuild us and actually heal us and restore us and make us more the people we're meant to be?
Well, one thing noticed my simple prayer that happens throughout the day. It gives me hope. Whenever you pray for the Father in Jesus' name, it's given to you. But we never see it very quickly because we don't have the mental capacity of seeing it. But sometimes we don't get what we want, or we get something better. Because the wisdom is from the Father is something we can't fully understand. In terms of praising, well, we praise the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Now we have to praise each other. Praise for good behaviors is social reinforcement. When we praise somebody, you're doing very well. Now we become technical. Enforcement is something that you say or do for somebody who did something very good. And what you do is only a reward, a reinforcement, if it increases the probability of positive behaviors. Not
Mm,
only that one, but generalized to other behaviors. So
yeah.
people learn that by doing good things, they're going to be rewarded. And rewards come in the form of simple things we take for granted, like freedom. I recently saw a video, supposedly descriptive, written by Einstein.
Hmm.
If God exists, why is there suffering? Well, there's a great answer there. We're free.
Yes.
What father would put children in the world and say, live, and I'm going to dictate every move you make?
Yeah.
We would not be individuals. We would be totally regimented. You'd be like a dictatorship, so to speak. So one of the gifts from God is freedom, and
Hmm.
that's what makes us grow as the human race keeps growing, not always in the right direction because we have a lot of conflict in the world. So suffering comes from choices. And by correcting those mistakes, we become stronger, nicer, and maybe people who follow us, who learn from our mistakes and our achievements.
And I've noticed that in my own life too. The frequency of hearing that encouragement of positive behaviors. Even now, one thing I'm experiencing is, yeah, I started my own business about 4.5 months ago, and I run a Catholic publication in the Steubenville area. There's a lot of pieces of working with the businesses I do, and I do advertising and marketing for them. Over here, I have like all the content side, getting beautiful photographs and people to write stories. I have, where the magazine is now and where I want to go in terms of how many people we're sending it to, what we're doing for our businesses, helping them grow. And there's all these things. And sometimes it can be overwhelming. You're like, oh, like, there's so much to go, or there's so much room to improve. But then what I found is just coming back to that daily work. And it's been incredibly simplifying. And it's brought actually a lot more meaning and stability into my life of, okay, what are the few things I have to do today? Like what are my I wake up, it's like what are my non-negotiables for today? And I kind of do this in two ways depending on what my calendar looks like. Sometimes if there's just a little bit more open room or I don't have to do certain things at a particular time, I'm just like, okay, what are my three main tasks? Like I can't go to bed until I achieve those things. And then what I found is it gives you clarity in your day, and then it also gives you a sense of like fulfillment. It's like you finish your third thing, I check that off, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
I've had a successful day. I've
it's,
accomplished. I've actually taken tangible steps towards my goal. And if I continue to just compound this, do this day after day after day,
yeah,
I'm I'm going to get there. And like for me, it's like today, one of those things is doing this podcast. Like I felt a call from the Lord like 2 months ago to I have a passion and a love for talking to people, to connecting people, to asking questions, to understand meaning, and to sharing that with people. And yeah, I just felt God invited me into this. And so it's like, okay, how can I actually steward that? And and today on, October 18th, one of those things is to do this podcast. And there's a sense of gratitude that comes with that, because one, it's given me responsibility. Well, it's like, okay, I could have not showed up. I could have not prepared. I could have not read your book, could have not called you in the first place, and this wouldn't be happening. And then I'd be like, oh, what am I going to do? Who am I going to interview? Blah, 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 blah. But it's because of, yes, like saying yes to the daily actions, um, that we actually that we find this stability and meaning. And that was one thing I was really struck. You were talking about it in chapter 11. There was a few things that really stuck out to me. The 90-91 formula. I really love that idea. So it's right, that of our energy, 90% should be given to the present, 9% should be given to the future, and 1% should be given to the past. And that often when we have imbalances, right, when, we're giving, 50% to the future, where you experience all this anxiety of all these what ifs, or, well, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that. What if I did this? What if this goes right? What if that goes wrong? And we live in non-reality, and we get frustrated because there's, we can't actually affect any change there because it doesn't exist yet. Or it's like, or we hyper focus on the past. We give half our energy to the past, and you're like, oh, like if my parents raised me better, if I had better opportunity, or if I didn't throw away, if I did better in school when I was younger, if I really applied myself, if that relationship went better, oh, my life, I'd be where I want to now. And then it cripples us because we can't go back and change those things. But I love this because you said, when I took the first step towards changing my life, I had to examine the consequences of energy I invested in my thoughts as closely as I examined the expenditures of energy I use to power my physical body. So it's like, why do we often live that way? like we often don't actually realize that all of that thinking, all of our energy, our mental health, our physical health, our social health, our spiritual health really begins like in our thoughts, in our beliefs, and taking ownership of those and moving from there. Why do you think so many people are having that disconnect?
Negativity is easier to find than positive behavior in the general sense. The first family, Adam and Eve, a brother kills a brother. The prodigal son, rivalry. So negativity is all around. People need to learn to choose, focus on your assets, not on the problems. I wrote a song for the cops at the prison. It's called I Wish I Had the Donut, a coconut donut. I wish I had a donut to share with you. I'll skip a few and say, life's like a donut, sweet as it goes. For you to enjoy the donut, meaning the life, don't worry about the donut hole. But my sister Maria, she was eating a donut one time and she said, your donut's bigger than mine because there's a big hole in my donut. I said, later on, I saw that in a cartoon. I said, wow. Now you got to look at what we have.
Yeah.
It's very, very critical to live 99-1. Although I recently found something interesting. If you do 90% of your energy today, you take care of business. Things get done, you don't let people down. 1% in the past, so we remember what we learned so we don't make the same mistakes again.
Yep.
And we need to plan the future because we can't spend our whole life having fun, spending. We need to make sure we purchase an umbrella in case it rains. We have to plan for tomorrow, but not excessively, just rationally.
Yes.
Now, if we do it that way, we're living 100% now because it's all good investment. Most people who are depressed live in the past, either because of bad things happen or because of good things that happen and they no longer happen now. They have been replaced by good or better things. A lot of people get very anxious because they live in the present. What if, what if, what if? That's no way of living. You have to have faith. I was talking to a priest and I noticed that every hour, we talk for a long time, he
Hmm.
would close his eyes. And I was curious. So, Father, you just spent a minute with your eyes closed. You need a break? I said, no, no, I apologize. It's a habit I have. She said, throughout the day, I have to spend some time with God. We're talking about a lot of things, directions, and if I spend a little time with God, I get extra energy. So, well, that's a unique idea. Then he explained how priests pray every hour throughout the day. And I said, okay, so this is part of your formation. That's a positive verbal addiction. It's a positive spiritual
Yeah.
addiction. That the word addictions has a negative connotation, but people can relate to it.
Hmm.
Positive addictions are great. Then I start doing that. I was throughout the day. I did it this morning. I used to wake up. I get up at 4 or 5 o'clock every morning to write and do things. When you get to be my age, you don't have as much time to sleep. You just have to be productive, get things done. So, but I start taking 1 minute and take a deep breath. There's a way of breathing. You inhale, count to five, hold it. It was hard at first, and then exhale. And then I tried to imagine being with God, and I saw the only face I know that resembled God is Jesus. And I saw the face, and I tried to listen. And then I realized there's a white noise behind us. No matter where you are, if you close your eyes and focus, you'll be able to see something in the darkness. Also, you'll be able to hear a distant noise. And just last night, I called it the silence, the white noise of God. God has not spoken to me in English or Portuguese, but by action and by energy and miracles that help me and help people I prayed for. So when I relax and I'm spending time with God, I hear if you try that, and it doesn't matter if you are near a furnace, an air condition, that's going to overpower it. But you're in a quiet place and you listen carefully with your eyes closed, you're going to hear a white noise. It's dull, it's monotonous, but it's there. And that energy symbolizes the greatness of the universe, all the noise, all the things happening around us. And that's God. I think that's the sound that God shares with us when we can be quiet for a minute and listen. Now, I love physics. I never got an A in it, but I love physics. I have a friend who is a physics PhD from MIT, and he's brilliant. And I asked him, Let's talk about the white noise.
Yeah.
He's finally believing in God. It's a
Wow.
wonderful. He believes there's something like the noise that I hear, the white noise that I hear, make me think of a supernova explosions that happen out in space. That's so loud that would dissipate life on the planet Earth in a second. Explode eardrums. The white supernova happened far away from us, from our planet. That gets filtered through the universe, dark matter, our atmosphere, and by the time that noise reaches billions of light years later, that noise merges with the birds in the forest, the cars in the expressway, people
Yeah.
yelling, wars, people singing, football games, jets in the skies. But behind all that, it doesn't hurt us.
Yeah.
That's how God controls everything. The other thing that fascinates me is, well, we talk about gravity, gravitational pull, momentum, what's happening in the universe, which suggests that life on the planet Earth should not be existent anymore. But the solar system, that's very small, go through the four seasons with us. And this has been going on for billions of years. And we're pretty much unaffected.
Yeah.
The sun have been taken away by now, and there will be no life. Now, how does physics explain that? Our gravitational pull, rotation, translation,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
not strong enough to fight a force in the universe. We should have been gone. But I think the Father wants life.
Yes.
That's why we're still alive.
I think that's such a beautiful note to gear us towards the end of our conversation. I mean, we've talked about so much about early childhood development and the importance of role models. We've talked about the practical approach, right? The maximum behavioral contract and actually marking out things daily for your physical, your social, your behavioral, spiritual. But at the end of the day, I think as believers in Jesus Christ, like both of us know there's a core principle there, and it's a person, and he has a name, and his name is Jesus, and he's for us, and he is the one orchestrating reality and so intimately our lives and the plan and the call on our lives and who we're made to be and drawing us to himself. So like how does our relationship with the Lord play into all this? How do we actually like you said, taking those moments and longer moments of just silence, of just going to that quiet place with the voice and the noise of God coming to our hearts and to our minds and actually speaking to us and leading to us. How do we live from that place? How do we allow God to orchestrate our lives amidst all the busyness, the craziness, the demands of the day?
God allows us to choose. The energy is present. The miracle is always present. We have to accept the fact that we go to adoration, we pray the rosary. But during prayer, we have a lot of social distraction, and very few
Yeah.
people fully focus on the Father and Jesus and Mary. We're focused in a social, spiritual ritual. But those moments alone with God, I'm now able to do that for minutes. My goal is to be able to do it for half an hour because when I come out of the 2 or 3 minutes, focusing on the white noise, the energy, and I pray to the Father before to allow me to feel His presence closer and closer in Jesus' name, amen. And I'm start feeling it. And I have a clock. I have to come out of it, but I don't have to. I could try to stay there forever, and that would be a nice thing. But I have a responsibility. I have to serve others. So, but when I finally come out to the real world, I feel like 2 minutes with the Father was equivalent to 4 or 5 hours of rest. I
Yeah.
feel energized. I really wake up, and I'm so grateful for that presence that people notice a difference in me. And that started maybe 6 weeks ago when I met with this priest for a long time. And it's a great discovery. I'm trying to find a way to conceptualize that and explain that. But I talked to a man here, a Chinese scholar. They do meditation, but I asked him to describe it. It's not the same. It relaxes him. What I'm feeling, like the Lord's presence, is energizing, it's recharging. It's an insight that I never had before.
Yes.
I just hope to share that with people because all it takes a few minutes with your heart, your mind, your soul, your spirit fully focused on the Lord. And then you get recharged for your purpose and your mission in your life.
No, I totally agree, and I'm in a similar boat with you, Dr. Silva. I don't know if I could totally explain it conceptually, but experientially, I know exactly what you're talking about. And the way I have been able to somewhat describe it is it's like a going within myself and like even now, like even as we just started to talk about this, I started to become aware of the Lord's presence again and start to go back within myself to be with him. And it's this constant abiding. And it's like I go into like the center of my being, the center of my chest, and I feel this residing, this abiding. And it's kind of like being within myself, but a layer removed. And so I'm actually getting to see myself. And then from that, the world and everything in proper context. And it's deeply grounding. And I feel that when I can come back to that place with the Lord, that when I actually find myself deeply and properly grounded, which is ultimately only in Him, that I then actually have the right perspective in my mind, in my heart, my body, and in my experience to have proper perspective. And then from there flows gratitude. From there flows the ability to work, to become the man that I'm supposed to be, to do the things that I'm supposed to do. And I remember I've had like a general experience that for a few years now, walking in the Lord. I grew up Catholic, but I'd say really came into a deeper relationship about 5 years ago. But even within those 5 years, there's been just a few specific encounters where I've experienced this in like a totally new level. And I remember one, it was about a year ago, and in Steubenville where I live, every first Friday of the month, downtown on 4th Street, it's one of the main streets here. There's a lot of like store, like, they'll have like vendors, live music. So like the city comes together. It's a really wonderful event. And one of the things, as I'm prompted, sometimes me and friends just like to go do it because it's a great opportunity to, because there's so many people, is we'll go out kind of either one by one, two by two, and offer to share the gospel, to pray with people. I remember I was just walking. It was just actually as I was about to go home. So I'm kind of walking along the sidewalk, like walking past the live music where all the booths are and everyone's hanging out. And there was this guy outside a bar, and his name was G, like the letter,
And
pretty unique name. And I just remember kind of something coming over me. And I don't know how to describe it other than it was like that experience of going to be within myself with the Lord, but like amplified 100 times. Like I was just so content. I was like, I don't need to be anywhere else. I don't need anything. I'm not grasping. I'm not trying to find meaning or fulfillment or pleasure. There was just this deep sense of like contentment and and being aware and living in the present moment, not worrying about what has happened, what could happen. And I was just there with this man G, and I was just so attentive to the presence of God. I mean, he could feel it. Like we didn't even really be our conversation didn't even begin talking about the Lord, but
yes,
he literally just asked me toward the end. He's like, "Where did you go to church?" Because he was like, he could tell something else was at play, and it was not Michael Ferraro, right? It was God living inside me. And the reason I share that is exactly like what you said, Doctor Silva. Of where does all this place of these types of health being properly energized and grounded, developing, finding the right role models and building the right life on family and business, these things we're called to achieve, the responsibilities we're given. It's like, would we go back to that place of groundedness? And I love it. It's kind of a strain of psychology I've gotten really interested in. I followed for like a year and a half now, but it's the idea of like attachment therapy. I don't know how familiar you are with that, but like one of the core principles is there's this idea in really early development, kind of within those first 2 to 3 years. This idea that the children, if they properly develop and they have what's called a secure attachment, which just basically means they're allowed to have healthy, normal relationships, etc. Um, that there's this idea of the safe base, which should be what the parents should be, the mom and the dad, ultimately in a properly
yeah,
regulating, running family. And the idea is that as they grow, like you'll see, like as the months go on, the child is able to kind of travel further and further from the parent and explore the world. But what's beautiful is like, and you see this in little kids all the time. It's incredible now that I've like read about it and heard lectures and talks on it. I see it all the time when I'm with friends that have little kids. But like, your year old or your 18-month-year old, like they'll be crawling, walking around, exploring, and then they like look back at mom and dad. They're like, all right, mom and dad are still there, and they kind of go back. And as they develop over those initial year to 2 years, they get more comfortable, going further, exploring, doing more things on the own, which is beautiful because it's proper development because they're growing in independence and not independence of like, I don't need you, I don't want you, but I'm actually secure in relationship with you. I have everything I need in proper development and healthy relationship to be grounded in who I am. So like you were talking about with freedom, like we're given freedom, I actually have the freedom to explore, to create, to become the person I'm meant to be, to live 100% now. And that's why I was so struck by what you brought up of that practice you've been discovering over the last 6 weeks of since your conversation with the priest, because I've experienced that myself of when I can return to that place and be with the Lord and be energized, it actually gives me everything I need to live my life fully as I'm supposed to.
It's awesome. That's awesome. Very well put.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a lesson he's been teaching me. So still
Well,
sitting at the master's feet every day.
I love it. Yeah, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job.
Thank you, Dr.
And
Silva.
I'll pray to the Father that He supports you and help you reach as many people as possible. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Yeah, and maybe Dr. Silva, just as we close here, to anyone watching, that wants to live 100% now, right? As your book's titled, what's maybe 30 seconds if you could distill everything you've learned and written about, what would be that one piece of advice, that one piece of encouragement you could maybe give to the audience to live 100% now?
One piece of advice is, in case of doubt, ask the Father in Jesus' name, and this will be given to you. But God has already given you all you need. All you have to do is your part. Use your energy wisely. Always do your homework before you play
Thank you,
and
Dr.
serve
Silva.
others.
And then if people wanted to hear more about you or read more of your work, what would be the best place for them to find you?
But they could contact me by email, phone number, or go to my website, which is www.living. It's still in development, but we have a few things there, contact information.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you again so much, Dr.
Thank you
Silva.
so much. It's been a
Yes,
pleasure.
yes, you
God
as well.
bless you.
All right. God bless you.